Hello and welcome to ProHuman, the podcast, the audio accompaniment to pro-human.co, where I write about the value of human creativity and culture in an increasingly inhuman world. And on the podcast today, I'm joined by Myles Delfin, who is the founder of Bike Scouts, which is a community of cyclists around the Philippines who use pedal power to respond to communities in need, particularly in times of crisis, of which there have been quite a few in the last year, right, Myles?
Yes, absolutely. Just last year, we had actually seven consecutive typhoons, including three Category Fives, and this is something that happens regularly. But so far, 2024 has been the worst
Mm.
because for the past like 11 years that we've been in operation, we've actually come to expect that every year around late October to onwards, like all the way to January and February sometimes. We know that there will be typhoons, but 2024 has so far been the worst because not only that we had seven consecutive typhoons, like every week there was a typhoon.
Mm.
And then not only that, the flooding has gotten so much worse that even places that we never expected would be flooded was actually submerged last year. So yeah,
Okay,
things are
well,
really getting worse.
fingers crossed 2025 might not be quite so horrendous and hectic for you. But Bike Scouts is part of your solution, maybe not to the long term issues of climate change that are probably behind these typhoons, but certainly to the short term issues of helping people in need. So, can you explain a bit about what Bike Scouts is and why you founded it?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll start from the very beginning. So we started in 2013 on the day that Typhoon Yolanda, which was another Category 5 typhoon, happened here in the Philippines. It made landfall in a place called Eastern Samar in the Visayas region, like the middle part of the Philippines. So the storm arrived, made landfall, and it basically devastated an entire city, an entire province, and it washed away. It had storm surge waves that overwhelmed like even the control tower of the airport in Tacloban City. So the devastation was so massive that it resulted in the loss of like over 6,000 lives, which is just the official figures. But some people say that it's so much higher, and I tend to agree because I was on the ground for 4 months during the time. So we started there. I was actually working in the advertising industry. I was sitting in my office watching the news, and I saw how people were getting all of the like basic essentials like shelter, medicine, food, everything that they would probably need, but none of them were getting access to information or access to communication that would allow them to reach out to their families.
Mhm.
And here in the Philippines, family is like a very very big deal. Um, when people lose connection with their family, especially in times of disasters, it greatly impacts their sense of hope, and when hope starts to disappear, basically that causes sort of like desperation in a lot of people. And so I figured, because I used to race mountain bikes when I was much younger without the white hair. I did I did cross country races, and I did 24-hour endurance races. And so I was thinking that because I have a lot of friends in the cycling industry, why not put together bicycles and sort of like a service that would help people reach out and connect with their loved ones and find information about where they can get help and assistance, so on and so forth. So he came up with the idea of organizing a team of volunteer bicycle messengers. So it was just really an idea that I posted on Facebook. But within like a few hours, we had 200 signups for like we
Wow.
wanted to, and there was nothing to sign up to at this point. It was basically just that post. I didn't think that anyone would actually sort of like respond.
Right.
So I posted it, and within like a few hours, we had 200 signups for volunteers. All of them wanted to go on the ground and help. And then an international bicycle company operating here in the Philippines reached out and offered their office, their showroom, that okay, tonight if you want, you can organize a meeting here at our showroom, and we can talk to you can talk to all of the volunteers that sign up. So we did that, and the very next day, we were on a C-130 flight, courtesy of the Philippine Air Force, on the way to Tacloban City. And the rest, I guess, is history.
Oh my goodness.
So
So
we,
what were you going
yeah.
there to do? How are you what was everyone sort of briefed to do on arrival?
So yeah, because it's very like response work is very technical, and we were very very aware of this, and so we picked just the people who had actual experience. Because I also used to do adventure racing, so my
Mm.
sort of like my circle of friends were people who had like vast experience in navigations, wilderness survival, even volunteer rescue work. We did a lot of mountain rescue. before when I was much younger. So I picked the people that who had actual experience, that who could actually handle the kind of work. And the work basically was to be, number one, to become volunteer bicycle messengers, like literally to provide a service where people can just write notes, or have, like, take a picture or video of them and send that, deliver that to their loved ones.
Mm.
And that was the primary work that we did on the ground in Tacloban, in around Leyte province, and of course Samar province as well during that time.
That must give people huge comfort because, yeah, if you don't, eh, having no news just leaves you in limbo. So, how did people respond when
Absolutely.
you were able to deliver those messages to them?
Well, actually, this is my favorite question, because um, the reason why 11 years on I'm still doing this and the community is still doing this is because, like, of the so many the we had so many stories that we experienced during our time deployed to Tacloban, and one of the things that I really cannot forget until now, and it really sort of like drives me even now, is the story of this one person who was sitting in a corner in an evacuation center. It's not an actual evacuation center, because people, when I say evacuation center, people would probably imagine like a UN organized evacuation center with tents and facilities and
Mm.
everything. Like, this was just basically a destroyed school, and people took shelter in this destroyed school because it was the only thing that had like some semblance of roof that remained. And so families and people were living there, and we were taking down notes, we were getting names and information and letters and stuff like that from people. And there was this one person who was sitting in a corner. So I sort of like decided, okay, I'll talk to this guy because he doesn't seem to know anyone. He's sort of like an outsider. And I asked him what his story was. And it turns out that he was there in the province to work as a construction laborer, basically.
Hmm.
He was there alone. And his family is in Manila. And then he said, and I offered that if you have a message for your family, we can send a message for you, because that time a media company here in the Philippines called Rappler offered us access to their satellite IP van, which
Wow.
they converted. Yeah, they converted the satellite IP signal into basically data signal, and that's how we were able to access Google and Facebook and everything else. So how we were able to send the messages and yeah, call people up. And so I got the message, and the message that this guy wanted to send was very, very simple. It was actually just one line. He just wanted to tell his family that he's okay, and for them to that he's alive. Actually, that's what he said in Filipino,
No.
and that for them to not worry about him. And so that night when I got back to our base camp, I called up his family, and when someone answered the phone, I told them that, oh, this man sent me a message, and the message is this. So I told them that he's alive, and that they should not worry about him. And at that moment, I think that person dropped the phone, and I could hear them crying in the background, and they completely forgot that I was still on the line.
Wow.
So it's funny for me now when I look back at it, but at the time it was very, very emotional for everyone in the team. And that basically explained to me and showed me and proved to me that what we were doing is something that's very, very human, very, very much needed in the world. Because when we talk about climate change, when we talk about climate adaptation and resilience and everything, people automatically think now it's all about AI or technology, which are good things, of course. But the thing that we tend to forget is that human beings live now in the present, and the impact is being felt right now in the present. So that's something that not a lot of people are working on, and so we took it upon ourselves now to work specifically on that.
We'll get to sort of technology and the sort of the bigger issues at play here in a bit, but you managed to clearly rally a lot of support. You had the Philippines Air Force. You managed to get Rapper to help you out. How did you manage to get their support, and what was your sort of pitch to them? How did you explain what you were doing and why you thought it was necessary? Because some of them, I'm sure, would have said, "Well, don't you want food? Don't you want blankets? Don't you know this idea that all you're bringing is human connection?" It sounds almost frivolous, but of course, it's completely essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is something that involves local context, and this is something that a lot of non-Filipinos, or maybe non-Southeast Asians or non-Asians, usually don't understand immediately.
Hmm.
But in a country like the Philippines, in Southeast Asia, and in other countries in Asia, community is a very big deal. It's the basis for our sustainability, our resilience, our ability to do things. And so one of the things that we don't actually do in countries like the Philippines is we don't pitch ideas like this. We don't have to pitch. It's not like in Silicon Valley where you have to do a presentation deck and present it to people who make decisions. It's not like that. Basically, it's just through the community that we built, which was 200 people back then, and they had each of them had their own connection. So one had a connection to an Air Force officer. That was all that it took to get our teams access for 4 months on all of the C-130 flights. That was all that it took. No
Wow.
pitches, no nothing, and because because the Air Force found out that we were going to be riding our bicycles and they said that's exactly what we need on the ground right now because outside of the airport you can't even walk because there's like mountains of debris
Mm.
because of the storm surge waves and the winds, and there were overturned trucks and everything. And so they started connecting us to other groups also that could not deploy but had supplies. And so that's how we sort of like transitioned also. Aside from just information and communication, we started delivering supplies, and even for international NGOs back then, because they have this like map of operations where they can, which are the places that they can only operate in, and they couldn't access other places. And so we took on the job of delivering supplies to the areas that they could not reach.
Right, because I was going to ask you, so why bikes? Because I think there's a lot of people in the world that certainly I come across living in Singapore and working with large companies. Um, their their default is to sort of come up with some big tech solution and go, okay, people can't communicate. So what we need to do is we need to invent a big tech solution to solve this problem, and it will take years and cost billions of dollars. And you got
Yep.
people on bikes. It seems so it's so analog. It's so 20th century or even earlier.
Yeah.
Why did you make the decision that to keep it simple? I suppose.
Yeah. Well, the way that I always explain it to myself is that I don't know if people still will recognize this reference, but the movie Apollo 13.
Mm,
Yes, they were on a spaceship, but the solution for their survival was actually using basic things, and
yeah.
that's the same thing. The solution to a lot of the biggest problems in countries like the Philippines, at least, are usually the simplest things. The same thing with community, for example. If you go hungry, people will tend to say people in wealthier countries probably will probably think that okay, let's come up with a campaign, let's do this, and then let's raise funds, let's do a concert and stuff like that.
Mm.
In the Philippines, what you do is you go to your neighbor and you ask for food. That's it. That's all it takes. You don't have to pitch. You don't have to do a concert, and people in your community will actually provide that for you. So it's simple things solve great problems if there's like a culture for it, and so that's basically our default for everything. We just do that, and because bicycles, of course, um, not a lot of people recognize the value of bicycles, but everywhere you go, from the Philippines to India to even around Southeast Asia, there will be bicycles in a lot of the places where where the roads are not so good, or not very the public transport is not so reliable. People will be on bicycles. People have been riding bicycles for the longest time, even until now, in the age of like rockets
Mm.
and robots. People are still riding bicycles to survive and to thrive. And so we're just basically taking something that's already there, so we don't have to spend billions of dollars. We don't have to invent any fancy thing. It's just people, their heart to provide help for others, and mobility that already exists in their community.
And that,
Simple things.
of course, is why I find it so pro-human, because not only is it doing something for other humans with human
Yep.
connection, providing supplies, but it's quite literally people powered. It's pedal power. It's
Yep.
using it may not seem like it. I come from a bit of a punk sort of background, the DIY punk scene where, use
Mhm.
what you've got, do what you can. And I absolutely love that approach to it. And I think, sometimes we overlook that and we complexify things that don't need so much complexion. I also like, as you said, you didn't need to pitch. There's just an understanding. This is how communities work. And it reminds me that even in Singapore, where we're very advanced, we're very corporate, everybody marches to work. But Singaporeans constantly refer back to the kampong days, when we lived in small, conurbations and cooked communally and things like that. And I do think that spirit perseveres throughout
Yep.
Southeastern nations that I've been to. Every Southeastern nation has their version of the kampong. And I think it's essential sort of understanding how those places work. And certainly, do you see as countries develop and modernize, do you see that is sort of under threat in any way, or do you think that will stand the test of time?
I think people are sort of like infatuated with the concept of like technology being the everything for everything.
Mm.
But we are, no matter what we do, we remain human beings. We are people. And so I think, I mean, there's nothing that we can do to change that. Technology will always be a tool. Technology is very much needed for innovation, for progress, for everything. But even AI, for example, AI generated art or AI generated music and all of the new things that we have right now, none of it will have relevance without people. And in fact, one of the things that I learned very early on in life, because I love reading and I still love, love reading actual books until now. So
Shocking.
like a lot of the a lot of the useless information that nobody gets to see on the internet. One of the things that actually sort of like spurred innovation in the, at least this is just my opinion. I'm not a scientist or anything, but my opinion about it from based on what I've read is that people started to progress when we got together as a village. Like we
Mm,
sort of like departed from being hunter gatherers and realized that, hey, if we get together, form a village, and help each other, we can actually do so much more. We can, we can take time to do paintings, do learn new things and stuff like that. And so until now, I think that's one thing that never changes. We have new tools. We're no longer using spears. We're no longer using axe made of rock. We're using AI robots and rockets, but still we are human beings, and we're still the same village that we were before. And I think we shouldn't. Well, one of the things that I wish for is that people would not sort of like confuse technology as a replacement for what we have as a human village,
mm.
because I think a lot of we lose a lot of things without that sense of community.
One of my favorite books is Humankind by Rutger Bregman. I don't know if you are familiar with his work, but there's been a sort of persistent theory that the reason humans evolved the way we did is because of competition. We were always competing to get better and better and better. And he argues, no, it's actually cooperation, our ability to get together in large groups, envision something better, a better future, communicate that, and then build it together. And I think that's a really nice message. And it seems like that's kind of how things are working for Bike Scouts, because you were 200 people in 2013, and obviously it's evolved a lot since then. So can you perhaps update us? Where are you now?
Yeah. So when we started out as volunteer bicycle messengers with a very specific mission, just information, communication, and supplies. But even just a few months after we did that work, and we started putting out videos and stories online about the work that we were doing to get more support. People who didn't even know how to ride bicycles, their families, their friends, their relatives, started asking, "Hey, we want to get involved because that can happen to us as well. So please let us know how we can help." And so that's the point where we started to transition from being just a team into being an actual community, and it just grew and grew over the past 11 years to the point that right now I don't know how we are able to manage an entire community, nationwide community here in the Philippines at least, and we're also in a few other countries in small groups. So yeah, it's basically just the way I see it. It's just that sense of community, because in the modern world, like I mentioned, a lot of people think that it's the thing that spurs progress is competition. But I think and I believe, and based on what I've seen over the past 11 years, is that people have always had this sense of responsibility for others. There's just no space for it. There's just no place for people to sort of like practice that. A lot of us, yes, we chase after money. We want to do, invent things so that we can be recognized for it. But at the end of the day, at least for me, when you're in bed and you're sleeping and you're alone in your thoughts, you sort of like think of, there must be more that I can do in life that means something, actually means something to people. And this is something that sort of like drives a lot of people to have that in the back of their minds but never get the chance to practice. And I think the value of the bike stars community is that we provide that space, we provide that place uh, for people to to know, because they know that if they join the bike scouts, it's specifically for that, for sense of responsibility for others. It's sense of community that actually creates an impact. It's not just like a term
Mm.
that a lot of people use the term impact, but here I've actually seen what impact actually is in like human, at the human scale, at the human level. So I'll give, if you don't mind, I'll give you a specific example of this. There was this one woman in Eastern Samar, in a very small town. She posted a message on one of our group chats, and she said that I met this elderly man and his wife. And this man used to drive me on his pedicab, which is of course a tricycle powered by a bicycle, to from my home to the school the entire time that I was in school. And now I'm successful and everything. So I want to help him because he and his wife lost their home, lost his pedicab, don't have any money, don't have any food, don't have anything. And they're living under a tarp basically because they don't have anywhere else to go. So by accident, she just accidentally ran into this man and found out his situation. So she posted the story on the GC. And within 24 hours, not even the national community of the bike scouts, just their local community gathered enough local support to build an entire house for this man and his wife. And not only that, provided medicine, groceries, and long-term support for both the men and there are many other stories like this. And it doesn't take like a lot of effort to do something like this. It's just really sense of community. Again, going back to simple things solves big problems.
You said the word impact sometimes gets thrown around a bit much, and I think the word community does as well. People talk about having an online community or a Facebook community or whatever, but I think we've forgotten about the community, actually the people kind of next door to you. And you don't have to agree with everything they believe or everything they say, but you have to inhabit the same space. And I think that's what encourages us all to sort of rub along without separating ourselves into different groups and tribes and stuff. And I think we did see, I think we got a hint of this during the pandemic because there was a lot of sort of dystopian predictions that we'd all take up guns and it would be like some sort of episode of Zombieland or something. But actually, what
Yes.
happened was people, by and large, looked after each other. They looked out for each other. They called on people. They offered to go shopping for people. They, checked in with their neighbors. They had street parties to keep each other's spirits up, albeit at a safe distance and things like that. In the UK, they were sort of out cheering on the NHS. So what I wonder is if we can have that during sort of the worst times, why can't we have it during the best times? Why can't we remember that? And I don't know. I don't want to get conspiratorial and say there are forces that keep us apart or anything, but it does seem that perhaps we're kept busy, or too distracted. And it was only when we were all off work that we realized, oh, we can use this time to help each other. And maybe it's a bit utopian, but I think with a bit more time, possibly enabled by AI or whatever new technologies come along, we might do a bit more of that.
No, actually, it's not utopian. It's something that I see every day in the bike scouts community. Like during the pandemic, there was this one woman. Not she's not part of the bike scouts, but our community actually did the same thing. And but I use her example because it's so inspirational. And without even a community, she was able to do this. She organized a food pantry just in her own street. It's
Mm.
basically just a table, a drop off area for people. Like if you have spare canned food or fruits or whatever in your home, just put it there, and so that people who don't have lost their jobs during the pandemic can just take what they want. I mean, there's no like incentive for this, no reward for this, but people did that all over the Philippines, and they basically just copied this woman's example, and they did all that. The bike stocks community itself organized so that we can provide number one bicycles for frontliners, nurses, and doctors, so that they can actually get to the hospitals where they're saving lives. And not only that, when bike scouts started giving away bicycles to doctors and nurses, other bike scouts who were bike mechanics actually rode their bikes middle of the night to street corners so that if someone's bike broke down, they would be there to help repair for free.
Amazing.
So yes.
This idea of acting locally. I mean, I know a lot of people who, well, we hear it all the time, don't we, in the press about these entrepreneurs who want to make the world a better place by inventing a new app to deliver cat food quicker or something. But actually, what are they doing in their own backyard? And I think you've given a great example of that. But that's quite important to you, isn't it? Because your riders do work in their local communities. You're not flying people all over the island on Air Force planes anymore, are you?
No, no. No, not anymore. I mean, sometimes we have to do stuff like that as well.
Hmm.
Like if there are specific supplies, like for example, recently in a remote island called Batanes, they lost power, lost water because of a Category 5 storm, and so we had to send a prototype solar power unit that we built ourselves with zero funding,
Oh
so
my
that
gosh.
they would have power, so that their Starlink dish could have power, so that they could provide connectivity to the community. So yeah, stuff like that.
But what do you think is the value of having sort of local riders working with local communities as opposed to sort of flying people in? Because when we spoke before, that seemed like quite a cornerstone of what Bike Scouts is now.
Yeah. It's all about local context. because it's a lot of people. I see a lot of people even on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and other platforms, and even on YouTube. Um, a lot of people tend to prescribe solutions that they haven't really experienced, and so a lot of these solutions don't align with what people actually need locally. And so it's sometimes we've actually seen a lot of projects that have sort of like wasted a lot of resources, a lot of investment because of this, because of prescribed solutions that do not actually align with local needs. And so one of the value that the bike scouts approach to doing things is that we start with local context. So when a disaster happens, for example, in town, we don't just send packages to them like of random things. Of course, medicine, food, and water is very much essential. But again, for example, medication. Not everyone needs the same kind of medication.
Mm.
One of the least noticed problems that people have in the aftermath of disasters is that people with critical illnesses, like for example, heart ailments, diabetes, asthma, and others, they need specific type of medication. They don't need the usual stuff that are being handed out to people randomly. So because the bike scouts are local, we have local contacts. They know these people by name, and these people know them by name because a lot of times they're actually their neighbors. And so we get to find out, okay, this person needs this, and he needs a specialist, and he needs like an actual doctor that's a specialist for his case. And we connect all of that. We use our platform so that we can connect our community, the doctors and nurses and others in our community, to help very specific people. It doesn't take a lot to actually do that. We just, again, like what you said earlier, we like to overcomplicate things because it sounds like we're doing something big,
Yes.
but we not in all cases that we need to do something big. Sometimes we just need to do something simple, and that's really all that's needed to solve problems.
Now, that being said, Bike Scouts has expanded around the country, and you said maybe there's little pop ups happening in other countries. So, what's the plan for Bike Scouts? Because obviously, you were in advertising. You've now been doing this for 11 years. So, there's clearly some ambition there. So, what are you trying to achieve?
Right now, we're focused on our what we call our resilience system. So we actually built our own technology because we do need technology to solve a lot of the big problems that we have here in the Philippines, at least in terms of like climate driven disasters, resilience to that. And so one of the first things that we built was an AI enabled app because people need the app to sort of like participate in reporting and monitoring disasters as they happen so that the response would be more efficient, it would be more targeted. Because a lot of times, like on Facebook, there are like 15,000 reports, for example, about the disaster, and
Mm,
most of them are actually inaccurate. A lot
mm,
of them are actually uh, old photos of people in trouble being posted, being shared because people don't have no way to verify this. And so we've created a location-based tool in our app so that people can report and monitor disasters as they happen, and the rescuers, responders, and aid agencies in our own community are the ones who actually receive this reporting, and they're able to respond efficiently. And the second thing that we built is because you have an app, but the technology is actually the first to fail during disaster events. Electricity, mobile, internet,
of course.
all of the technology prescribed, at least in the Philippines, from our experience, the moment within a few hours of a severe disaster, like a Category 5 storm or flooding, none of the technology actually exists. The only thing that works is satellites in space, but all that they can do is look down on what's happening and report that okay, X number of houses have been washed away by storm surge waves, so on and so forth. And everyone knows how that works, but the technology that we need should be on ground. It should be in the hands of people because they're the ones facing down these typhoons, these floods, these landslides, even. Um, and so what we built was a mesh network. Mesh network is not a new idea. A lot of people are doing this worldwide, but none of it is free, which is the main problem. They can't scale it. It's not in the hands of people in places that actually need this technology because all of it is for sale. All of it is like have requirements that people can't actually sort of like fulfill. And so what we've built is that we've created this approach where we've built the mesh network, and we are working with companies now At least we're in the initial stages of talking to companies so that they can sponsor the nodes, the mesh devices, and we'll just basically distribute this to everyone. One of the other benefits of having our own mesh network is that aside from resilient connectivity for people so that they can continue helping monitor and report on disasters, is that people, there are a lot of places in the Philippines where there's actually no internet and no mobile service, or at least no
Mm.
reliable mobile or internet service because of the terrain. So it um, of course, people think that internet and mobile service will solve everything, but the reality is that telcos won't invest in places that where they don't have enough revenue,
Mm.
and
Of
that's
course.
just the truth. And so, like, simple problem like students don't have access to educational materials because there's no internet, there's no mobile, and so this mesh network will actually help solve that problem. And the last thing that we've built, because now we have the app, we have connectivity, and the last part is that power. People need power so that they can continue using their devices, they can continue doing the work that we do. And so we've built our own 6 kilowatt portable trailer, solar power trailer with
Wow.
an integrated water pump and filtration system. Because these are all the basic things that people need for actual local resilience. It's easy to say the word resilience, but what does resilience actually entail? And it entails, again, very simple needs first that need to be addressed so that people can participate in creating their own resilience. So we have the technology, the platform with the app, we have the mesh network for resilient connectivity, and we have power and water so that people can actually survive. And the power and water that we provide through the trailers will actually support as well the village and provincial hospitals and clinics that automatically run out of power. And we have to remember that these hospitals and clinics need refrigeration so that they can sustain the
Mm.
life, the effectiveness of the pharmaceutical products that they need, so that they can help people. Without that, like insulin, for example, during Typhoon Odette in the devastated Cebu City, we had to scramble. Our local team had to scramble for ice just so that they could preserve the medicine that people need, so that there would be a supply that's available for people that need it. And so we basically took all of our experience in the past 11 years, the problems that nobody wants to work on because it's very unsexy to work on these things. And basically, because we already have the community aspect solved, so now we've built our own technology with, again, with zero funding, no support whatsoever. And but hopefully I can change that in the like soon.
Hope so, and I want to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about the first thing you said there about the reporting aspects, because one of my biggest worries and one of the reasons that I started writing Pro-Human is because of my fear and, let's face it, hatred of AI slop filling up the internet. And right now, as we speak, the LA fires are burning. And I've seen, even on a professional platform like LinkedIn, people putting up clearly AI generated videos about sort of what could be happening on the ground there, what might be happening. So there was someone there sort of saying, won't someone think of the animals? And yeah, all right, fair enough, that's quite true. But there was this fake AI video that was posing as a real video of sort of bears and rabbits and deer sort of running away from fire and stuff. And I just feel like it's polluting the reporting. I don't think that helps. Now, from that person's point of view, they're thinking, well, it doesn't, the means don't matter because I'm trying to get to an end, which is important, which is saving the animals, which I understand. But I think the means do matter. And I think, having a way to report truthfully and honestly and verify and stuff like that is very important. Have you seen this sort of thing happen? Is that part of the reason why you've put focus on this particular aspect?
Yes, absolutely. Um, Here in the Philippines, our most recent experience with something similar to that would be the Taal volcano eruption, because we actually helped move farm animals like cows, horses, goats, and even pets out of the danger zone. And one of the problems with, like, because AI generated content is basically just content. It doesn't actually tell the right story. It doesn't tell the thing. It doesn't share the thing that people uh, need to act upon. It creates sort of like an emotional response,
Mm.
but then people wonder, okay, so what is the thing that we need to do together so we can do something about this? And it doesn't actually do that. So for example, during the Taal volcano eruption, what we did was that we shared the story of the person handling the boat transfer of the horses from the volcano island to the mainland so that they could be saved. And this, because of this, veterinary students from colleges and universities in the Philippines volunteered their services because they knew exactly what was happening. They knew where these animals were being brought to and by whom. And very immediately, like within a few hours, they were able to come together and work out a solution, location for where the animals can be brought, and provide provided with medical help and everything. And so I think for a lot of problems, not just disasters, but even all kinds of crises, I think people need to get the real story rather than just generated content. Content
I
comes after.
I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, that video of the animals, you know, great, the animals need saving, but that video doesn't tell me what animals, doesn't tell me where they are, doesn't tell me what they
Yeah.
need. It
Yeah.
provoked an emotional response. I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, it's horrendous to think of those animals burning, but there's nothing for me to act upon there. There's nothing to do because there's no facts.
Yes, exactly. And I think one of the downsides of AI is that it's designed for to provide content, so that
Mm.
it might be inaccurate, but I think mainly because people want to make money from the content, or want to make money in
Or,
some
or,
way.
or get likes. I mean, my sort of tagline behind pro-human, before lest anybody gets the wrong impression, is I'm not anti-tech. I'm just pro-human, and I think that's the case with you. You're using AI where AI can offer real, tangible human good, and you
Yes.
built an app because it serves a real need, a real function. I think too often, technology is applied to things where it's not the appropriate solution because
Yes.
either someone can make a lot of money out of it or someone can get a lot of attention from it, but actually it doesn't solve the problem. So
Yes.
I
Exactly.
think your demonstration of how you use technology is, it's just about being more thoughtful, more considerate, and combining, you know, big ambitions with local knowledge and local needs, and I think you'll get a better solution. That's what you seem to be
Yes.
delivering. um,
Exactly. And I think you got it exactly right when you said that we're not actually anti-technology, because we're
no.
not, because we can't avoid technology. We need technology to do a lot of the things. But again, you got it exactly right when you said that the right application of technology is what we
Mm.
need to realize.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of which, so obviously technology does cost money,
Yes.
but you're making technology for good. So tell me about this funding issue. So you keep saying you've built things for nothing. What does that mean? And what there's clearly a problem there that needs to be solved somehow. So what is it you need?
Well, I think there's no nicer way to put this, because, well, one of the things that, at least from my experience, people tend to misunderstand, like when we do things for good, people tend to think that, oh, you want to be like someone who saves the world for charity, or because it's an advocacy, it has to be, you don't need money or something, you can perform miracles. But that's not true. Everything that we do requires money. Like when we transport supplies, we need to pay the truck, the other things that we need so that we
Mm,
can get things done. When we build technology, we are very fortunate that we have actual engineers in our community who have been willing to provide their services for free. But of course, none of us are wealthy people, so we can't survive for too long doing things for free. And this is something that we really want to address, because what we're building is not it's not something because there's because we want to be popular for it or something. What we've built is a reaction to what we've experienced ourselves in our own communities for the past 11
mm,
years. People talk about climate change and climate driven disasters all the time, and there's already a lot of people who are already working on solutions for the far future. Now, I
mm,
don't know if the solutions that they're building will actually deliver on those promises, because it's so far in the future that will probably not be around by the time that they achieve those goals. But the thing that people tend to forget is that the impact of climate change and climate driven disasters is happening right now, as I mentioned earlier. And so the problem that we've been encountering, I've been encountering, and I have a big network of contacts, and which actually scares me, because imagine if I can't find support, how much more people in communities who have no network and don't have anyone that they can send like a proposal to or something. And so the problem with because there's no other nicer way to put it, is that there's just a lack of investment. There's like a lack of funding for projects like this. There's a lack of understanding and awareness that the problems that we're trying to solve right now, it's not 3 years down the line. The problems that we're solving, or every year we're counting down the months to the next typhoon season. because things are getting really worse. Things are getting bad. And it's not even just during the typhoon season. Like right now, there are multiple areas of the Philippines that are underwater because of severe flooding. And we're in some places there's good weather, but we're just having flooding and heavy rain in places out of season. And so we know for sure that what we've already built, we need to deploy as soon as possible, because without it, what happened last year where communication was completely lost, there was no assistance available because there's just no information, no
Well, those
no
people
no
can't
nothing,
even call for
basically.
help,
No. And a lot of
which
people
is
didn't
tragic.
even know that a lot. Yeah, not a lot of people knew of the needs in communities, like desperate needs for help and assistance and rescue, because there was no way to send it. The only reason why we got that information is because we have teams on the ground, and we were able to we managed to find ways to sort of like send that information. We dispatched that to other partners and our own teams elsewhere
Mm.
that were able to help. And so, yeah, the main problem really is money, because all of the money goes to things that I know will do good in the future, but
In
there's not
2030,
enough.
2040, when people cut their emissions, but people need help
Yeah,
right now. Um,
yeah,
so where are you? I want to spread this amongst my network. I'm in Singapore. Lord knows who might be listening might pick up on this, and I'm going to do my best to get it as
thank
far and
you.
wide as I can. But who can help you? I mean, are you looking at? Is it financial institutions? Is it sponsorship? Is it tech partners? Is it venture capital? Is it CSR money? Is it NGO money? Is it the Asian Development Bank? I mean, who do you need to come to your aid here? Who's the right type of person?
We actually have a curious problem when it comes to finding funding, because wherever I go, I'm told that the money that I'm looking for is too small. And so because
Oh
and this
man,
is
the
the
irony.
reality. Yeah, and this is the reality. I mean, because we've already built the technology, we don't need money to develop. We already have the prototypes. We just need to produce the things that we need. And so, what I'm looking for is, I don't know if I should mention a figure, but maybe you can edit this out. But the figure is like around 35, 40, $50,000 only,
That's it.
and a lot. That's it. That's all that we need so that we can
That's
get this started.
insane. Come on.
Yeah, because for the implementation of our resilience system, the app, the mesh network, and the solar and water trailer, we don't actually want to be dependent on funding, because we've already, since the Bike Scouts is nationwide in the Philippines, we have Bike Scouts in government, in different provincial governments, for example, and
Wow.
they've already indicated their interest to actually purchase this system so that they can deploy it in their own province. And so we can survive by doing that, rather than asking for like a large amount of money. We just want to have we just want to find we just need to find enough money so that we can get started. We can produce the initial 2-3 units of this, do a demo, because of
Mhm.
like rules of purchasing in government or something like that. We can't sell an
Mm.
idea, but if we have an actual working system and bring it to them and do a demo, they can buy that. And
And
that's
would you be looking for funding as in equity funding, or is it more of a donation? I mean, are you set up as a private company? Are you set up as a charity? I'm just trying to get down to the real bones of what's going to work.
the setup right now is that the Bike Scouts community is the non-profit aspect of our work,
Yep.
but there's also a for-profit for the technology component, because I realized that we can't sustain this as a non-profit, because of the
Very smart.
constant need for support, financial support for technology. Every day we have cost, actually. So yeah, so there's a non-profit and the for-profit. Whoever would be willing to take a chance on us, right now we're very open. I'm very open to any kind of arrangement. So there's it could be sponsorship, it could be donation, depending on what their sort of like motivation is for helping.
The
Yes.
reason I ask is because I wanted to designate you, Miles, as the inaugural Human of the Month. It's a new
Wow.
thing I'm doing for 2025 for ProHuman. I was trying to think, what can I give Miles? What's useful to Miles to sort of indicate my admiration? Like Human of the Month is a lovely thing to be. I can give you a little picture on LinkedIn and a flag, but what can I give him that's useful? And I think what I can probably do is we'll take this offline, but I do think that I might be able to put you in touch with some people can help with this. And I'm saying that sort of publicly on the podcast because wouldn't it be wonderful if we could perhaps get back together in 6 months or 12 months time and talk about how we've moved this forward a little bit. I can't promise the earth, but I certainly can make a few
Of
phone
course.
calls, and that's something that I'm
Thank you.
definitely prepared to do. I love your approach to working locally and solving problems that need to be solved now rather than in the future. But I love the fact that you are also developing technologies to, once you've sort of gone in and solved the immediate problem, you can leave something of a legacy behind that they can build off, particularly when they're building from nothing. My fear is, based on the record breaking year for typhoons and natural disasters that the Philippines had, which fundamentally is down to climate change. And we talked about this
Yes.
offline, and there's plenty of evidence for that. So I don't think I need to make the case here, but that's not getting better. So the need to fund bike scouts is getting more urgent. So that will be what I will. That will be my reward for being human of the month. Is I'm going to make some phone calls and try and put you in touch with some people. But for now, thank you so much for sharing the story. I think you do a wonderful job, and whatever I
Thank you
can
so
do to help, I will.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pro Human podcast here, wherever here is, Spotify or iTunes or whatever. But I'd love it if you could subscribe to the newsletter, which is at pro-human.co. That's where I write and advocate for the value of human creativity and culture, and in this case, ingenuity in an increasingly inhuman world. But for now, thank you very much.